what are some of the disappointments that, maybe have marked your time here in Nashville and things that you've had to get over and, like ultimately made you the person that you are today? Because, I mean, Ray Fulcher's always been probably the humblest dude that I know in town.
Man.
And you just keep getting better. So I think that there's something to say about those, the peaks and the valleys.
Sure.
But also here on this podcast, we kind of do want to share not the super low stuff, but just,
sure.
we want to kind of get real sometimes if you're cool with it.
Yeah,
and
man.
I mean, you've been in town since 2014. There's been plenty of peaks and plenty of valleys.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I know you personally. I don't know, specifics and stuff, but we all have our struggles, and I just didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I think it's a roller coaster ride, you know, what we do and stuff. And so I think some of the things that I've there's a couple of things that sort of, I would say lows that have sort of marked, some valleys, right, that we all have. And I get real bad at, I can get blinders on sometimes. And like, I will think about literally nothing but songs and what I need to do next. And like, I get so tunnel vision on what's going on sometimes that like, I'll sometimes miss the forest for the trees. And I've learned some lessons through that. But I went through a breakup about 5 years ago that where I was like, I remember it was 6 years ago, I think. And I remember it like that thing stopped me in my tracks and was like, your dream is great. But like in this case, I felt like I was being sort of selfish in a way that like eventually led to me getting hurt because, this person I cared a whole lot for decided like that this is not what she wanted in her life anymore. And I literally had this moment where I was like, man, I have like got to find some sort of balance in my life. But it took a heartbreaking season of my life to learn that. And just was putting like just so much of my own value in, how, who I am is only as good as like how good I do, and it was like, if I didn't, if I wasn't succeeding every single day and writing the best song every single day, and I wasn't like continuing to progress, and if I had, any hiccup along the way, it was like devastating for me. It felt like I thought it was until something truly devastating happened, which is I lost somebody in my life that I really cared about. And so it was a super, that was not a high point for me, but I learned so much through that, and was better on the other side for it. And then I think the other thing, which was, and luckily by this point I had learned a little bit of perspective, but I think my, when I moved to town, my goal, my dream personally was to be like an artist, with a record deal, go to radio and stuff. And, I worked and I worked. And then finally early 2021, I got that and signed a record deal. Like we were going to radio and, it's like, man, I like, reached the mountaintop and like, I'm getting to like live my dream, and none of it worked like I dreamed it would. Now there were some great parts of it, right? I got to put out 2 songs to radio that didn't do as well as I thought they would, and I hoped they would. I did get to play Grand Ole Opry, and I've got to do that 7 or 8 times now, which has been my
unreal.
That was my like bucket list, sort of the top of my list for me was to get to play, the Grand Ole Opry just once, and now I've got to do it, and it was because of my record deal that I finally got that first chance. And so there's so many good things that came, from it. But when that dream of mine didn't work out the way that I like planned it in my head, and those songs died in like the 50s and stuff, those songs at radio was like, it was kind of heartbreaking, for me. And so what it made me really do on the other side of that was really like, it kind of brought me back full circle to, this is the good part of those things the bad things, is it brought me back full circle to like the reason why I started in the first place was just like making up stuff that I love to hopefully affect people in a positive way. And so when I brought it just totally back to that, I was like, okay, I was like, and I had to go, it reminded me of that I'm not in control.
Right.
That it's like, even though that was my plan, it was like, all right, this is where you get to decide, are you going to be, are you just going to live pissed off because it didn't work out the way you wanted? Or are you going to go, all right, Lord,
Yeah.
You've asked me to trust you before, and I hadn't always done it the way that I, would have wanted to, but I'm going to choose right now to do that because I don't want to live in anger, and I don't want to live in like this, cesspool of disappointment. I'm going to choose to believe that there's a reason for this, disappointment that I'm feeling right now. And so really it just like eventually brought me back to, a really good, place in my heart and my head about it. And, but I feel like it's like looking back, I'm, happy that some of that stuff happened because it took me to I would have never, I know me, I'm too hard headed to ever learn those lessons without going through some of the, it's like, you're going to be dumb, you better be tough, boy, that kind of thing. And
that's true.
Some of
that
the things
that in the Bible.
Yeah, some of the things that I've learned in my life have been through pain. Pain is your the thing that I've learned here in my last 10 years of life and here being in Nashville is that like the two biggest things I've learned is that I'm not in control and that pain is your biggest teacher. And if you let it teach you, you can be way better off for it.